Well, one of the things I have to ask being an accountant is, how do you do your accounting? How does that part of your process get done?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it doesn't get done in inefficient ways right now. So we're relying on advisors that are CPAs, and we only have a certain amount of time from them. So it's really just yeah, it's definitely something we're interested in finding out how we can get nailed down more efficiently, working with experts, because yeah, it's extremely important. We want to use our cash as an asset and make sure that we're, right now we're basically just checking off all the boxes to make sure we're compliant, but we're not, as strategic as we'd like to be. And we are finding that there's, even at our stage, there's significant need to work with professionals on things like accounting. So yeah, I guess the jury's still out, but we need to figure that out.
Do you do anything unique in terms of your accounting, in terms of an accounting platform, or are you using kind of the hallmark software is to use QuickBooks, for example? Are you doing that, or are you doing something a road less traveled?
We're using QuickBooks. Yeah, we're using QuickBooks right now, and mainly my co-founder is managing that. But yeah, that's what we're using right now.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's next for Humanly then? Where do you see the company, say, in the next 12 months, and what might that look like even in terms of headcount?
Yeah, so we just got done raising a kind of tranche of investment money, and we're going to, starting right now, we're beginning to make announcements around that. We're going to be doing a little bit more PR next month. As far as headcount, we'll probably be at about 15 people by the end of the year. Our goal is to move as fast as possible and grow, really growing by way of creating awesome experiences for our customers. So, one customer at a time. But yeah, I mean, one of from a product standpoint, like I mentioned before, that this is really a data and content thing. We want to build that library of conversations to make hiring just so much easier. It's really tough right now, and even if you do train up a recruiter to be really strong, most recruiters leave after a little over a year anyways. So we do feel there's a big opportunity for companies to build that hiring brand, to save a bunch of time at the top of the funnel, and then turn every candidate into potentially a future candidate, a customer, an advocate. So yeah.
Something you were saying there inspired kind of a different question for me on the technical side, and it relates to something that I had read before that I didn't know. But what I've heard is that when you're building AI platforms, that the data is really important, because and the amount of data that you can work with can be very important, depending on how you develop the platform. Is that a consideration for you? I guess my question is.
Yeah.
Do you expect that the more data you have, the better the platform becomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of two parts of, as we think of building out these conversations and kind of the art and science behind it, there's a certain piece of the conversation that a bot may have with a candidate that it's predetermined, that's multiple choice or deterministic, and then there's more open-ended pieces of it. And the open-ended piece of it, the bot will get better and better, whether it's a bot or whether it's showing up in it as a different form, but it'll get better and better with more interaction. So having that training data is super important. And one thing we're trying to do is not be a purely unstructured AI platform. We're doing a lot with kind of the more deterministic piece of it as well, so that even before we have the data, we can create a great experience. It's not like, our technology will not be, if it's not able to answer a question, we're trying to be really good at what that looks like, what the experience looks like in the cases that it's not answering the question correctly. But yes, the data piece is huge, and there's tools out there. There's one I think called Scale.ai, where you can actually begin to play with large sets of data, even if you haven't acquired them yourselves from your clients. And that also makes me think of, data privacy is just so important to us. When you were talking about competitive advantages, that's another area that we're really placing a ton of effort into, to make sure that from a privacy and security standpoint, especially in this day and age, that customers know exactly how we're using the data, and that we're we're not using it in ways that they didn't sign up for. And what I mean by that is we're using it to make their experience better, not to make other people's experiences better.
Yeah. Yeah. So perhaps a geopolitical question for you. I think along those same lines, one of the things I read is that China is potentially positioned to basically kick our butt here in the U.S. when it comes to AI development, because they have a centralized plan and program for how to deploy data and build out AI technology. Is that I'd love to hear, kind of being somebody that's actually in this industry, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, if you've heard that or thought about that, or if that's a consideration at all.
Yeah, I mean, definitely from like a data volume standpoint, and as you mentioned, like the Chinese government actually investing in AI, and there's a lot of stuff our government does around that as well. It is in some ways almost an arms race, in the sense that, the faster you get more data, the more efficient you'll be. One thing I'm seeing, and not to like call out any specific countries, but I think mainly from like a company standpoint, the ones that are focusing more on the customer experience, what that end-to-end experience looks like, and how data can solve those problems, versus starting from, how do we get the most data, and then we'll kind of plug it in to help customers. So I think is the countries, the products, the technologies, and the companies that start with the customer and don't start with the data, I think are the ones that are going to win. AI and machine learning and stuff are really just ways of solving problems, but you have to understand the problem first before you throw technology at it. So
sure. Yeah, this was a super interesting topic. I think our audience is going to really enjoy and appreciate kind of hearing your thoughts on these things that we discussed today. Well, thank you. And to our audience, we'll see you in the next segment. All right.
Thanks.